Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George. You're listening to our review of the 2019 Hellboy. It's Connor. And Benny. Guys, here we are for this film that we've been talking about for a long time. We've been really hyped for this one, and unfortunately, the night before we went to see it, we just got trashed with terrible reviews. It's bombed at the box office so far. I'm very interested to see where we sit on this one because I think that those reviews really just did not do this film anything great in the long run of the box office.
They really took the legs from underneath it.
That's exactly it.
The eve of when anyone would go and see it.
That's it. So let's catch up on the non-spoiler component of this and what we were feeling going in.
I'll start by how I felt going into this. And I've maintained since that, I guess, first trailer that I really was not looking forward to this film. I was very iffy on the design of Hellboy and how David Harbour looked for Hellboy. I also, once we started getting some actual trailers, just felt like this seemed to be relying a lot of like catchy one-liners and maybe a little bit of violence to kind of get it past the line. There was nothing about this that really felt as though that it had substance to it. I mean, you can only gain so much from a trailer in terms of substance. Really, the whole point of a trailer is to give you a real snippet. But the whole direction of the film, the whole feel of the film just really didn't feel as, I guess, well put together as the Ron Perlman and Del Toro films really did. So yeah, I went into this a bit trepidatious. Also, on the back of those reviews was kind of like, yeah, this doesn't seem like it's going to be good at all. So yeah, I went into it very trepidatious. And
how about you, Benji?
So I'm not like a hardcore Hellboy fan. But that being said, I owned like the first 14, 15 volumes of the comic and like 8 or so BPRDs. These are big graphic novels and they're not cheap. So that's a lot of work. So I did have my history with Hellboy. I like the first 2 films. The first film in particular, I spent a lot of time with. That was one of the big DVD kind of breakouts.
Rotation.
Back in the long time ago.
04, baby.
Yeah. Seeing the trailers for this movie, I think every one that came out, I was a little less enthusiastic about it. Yeah. Just kind of every element I saw looked a little worse the more I saw of it.
Which should be the opposite, shouldn't it? Like the closer you get to the film, the better it should look.
You should be a little more enthusiastic, yeah. And then, obviously the day of release, a million reviews come out and they're all like, this is the worst thing ever. So, I wasn't particularly expecting much going into this movie.
Yeah. Hellboy, out of all the superheroes, he's the one I felt like he was mine. I've never really had an affinity to Batman, Superman, any of these other characters. I felt like Hellboy was kind of like this weird, awkward superhero off in the corner that nobody knows about, nobody gives a fuck about. And I was like, this guy, I have a connection to this. The Del Toro films, the comics, everything. And then to hear that Hellboy 3 wasn't going to happen under the Del Toro one, that was quite disappointing because I really wanted to see the ending to that trilogy. Hellboy 2 finished on that really great cliffhanger. I was just very hungry for that. And when we heard that wasn't going to happen, I was still open. To say, what else can we do with this Hellboy franchise? Because there's so much in there. And then to hear Neil Marshall was going to come on board, David Harbour as Hellboy, Mike Mignola giving his sign off on this, the Hellboy creator. Giving a darker, more, authentic version of the comics, all these things just sounded so fantastic. And then the trailers came out and I was like, okay, they're going for something completely different here. They're going for a mid-2000s Last Witch Hunter Underworld kind of style, naughties direct-to-DVD film.
It had all the recipes for an awesome film, didn't it? It
Yeah.
had the right people involved.
Exactly.
presumably.
And then I
I
still
would say that's a recipe for a terrible film, but
Well, I mean, it kind of is, isn't it? I mean, like if you get too many people that have too much investment in different, kind of ideas, you get power plays and all that kind of shit. Like, I get what you mean.
Yeah, Neil Marshall doesn't get enough credit for like The Descent. Like that is an
no, 100%
killer
Yes.
film. And I was like, okay, what if we bring that style of Neil Marshall to Hellboy? There is something very interesting cooking up. Unfortunately, that wasn't the direction they went. Fortunately or unfortunately, but I was still going into the cinema, giving it a full go. The Australian way. Good fair go.
Can I just say,
Fair shake of the sauce bottle.
good save there, George. Don't want to give too much away too early, right? Well, since the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, why don't we just jump into it? How we, what we thought of this film? I mean, we can start with.
Is it as bad as the reviews say? I think that's a good place to start.
I didn't really read any reviews.
Okay.
I kind of went off secondhand information from YouTube, being like, this has been lambasted. So I tried to stay away from that as much as possible. I knew that it was pretty unanimously, hated. Is it as bad? I imagine that it is not as bad as a lot of the reviews made it out to be.
Yeah.
Having said that, that is not glowing praise in any way.
Yeah.
Like this, I can see that a lot of people would have thought this is the worst pile of shit on the planet. It's not. But it is by no stretch of the imagination a good film. And I said this in our weekly show, is that after I watched this, I had like a spare hour or two, and I just kind of chucked on Last Witch Hunter because it was what I compared it to the most throughout, the trailers and all that. And I watched The Last Witch Hunter. I was like, oh, this is like markedly better than what I just watched.
Wow.
And that is saying something.
That's intense.
To give you an idea of where this stands.
Because I don't like reading reviews before going into movies,
Neither
but
do I.
sometimes if it's really, really terrible, or I'm seeing like a lot of negativity, it's sometimes better for me to go have a little read and kind of prepare myself, because generally I will enjoy it more.
Yeah,
exactly,
I'll kind of like know what the
this isn't as
baseline
bad
is.
as they said it was going to be. Like, there's some enjoyable parts. Is the kind of Which is
I don't
felt.
think this is as bad as the reviews say.
And that's kind of what I think my saving grace was. Is like I went in thinking like this is going to be the biggest pile of shit, and like there's a few moments in there that you're like, oh, this isn't too bad.
So I was very closely watching the reviews going in, and I think this movie is every bit as bad as all of them say.
You don't see any redeeming qualities in it?
No. I saw that everyone was trashing the shit out of this movie, and in that context, all that I could take away from it was the positives. So, like, I went in expecting the worst movie of the year, which, like, honestly, I'm pretty sure I got. But
is there anything else that we've watched this year that really kind of sits
Terrible
up there with
so far. Glass.
really terrible. Glass was not terrible.
Yeah, Glass is my other one. But yeah, no, in terms of actually like watching a movie and sitting there being like, wow, how did people make this movie? How did people get this money to make this movie? This was a big one. And but in that context of watching it that way, knowing all the reviews were that bad, and they were very bad.
Yes.
All I could really take away from it were the positives. So
Yeah. So it's sitting currently at a 15%.
Oh, 15. It's gone up from 10.
It's gone up a lot.
It's gone up from 10.
I think it went from 9 to 11 to
Wow.
15. So
15? That's fucking good.
Yeah.
Hellboy.
What a success.
The audience score is 64%, which is very low for an audience
I would
score.
say 64% is more where I'm sitting on Hellboy. I think
that's generous.
I think that
Why don't we talk about a couple of specific things?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay, no, hang
David
on. First thing, yes, David Harbour as
Okay, yeah.
Hellboy.
wait,
Let me
guys.
actually get it out.
Hang on,
First thing.
Wait. Wait, Georgie, what do you want?
Same
Georgie, shut up, Connor. What do you want to say, George?
Yeah,
It's a tie, Dad.
it's a tie. Yeah,
D Harbor, what's up?
D Harbor as our Hellboy. Look, as like an actor,
Performance and makeup.
yeah,
both.
performance. I thought that he did a really good job. I
And
think
it's different to
with-
Ron
with-
Perlman's.
with what he was given is a very kind of big caveat I will put on that. I think his performance was really good. I do think that the makeup is where that character kind of falls down. I really didn't like the way that he looked in general. I felt like the Perlman version of Hellboy just felt a little bit more kind of, I guess, solid. It's a weird way of putting it. Like,
It felt like a real person,
Well,
for lack
slash
of a better
demon.
term.
Yeah.
Really,
Like-
you guys didn't? I see. I think that's one of the strongest things in this is the look of
no.
Hellboy and
For
the
one thing, like, his
characterization
horns
of him.
were just so unbelievably clearly plastic horns.
Yeah,
Like,
so I'm
really
in
bugged me.
two very different halves on this thing. Like, yes, his horns were like flopping all over the place
Oh.
all the time.
Were they?
It was
worst.
really
I
distracting.
didn't see that.
And
You guys wanted to see that.
his mouth was like they did a lot of work to make him look more like the comic book Hellboy.
Yeah.
And half the time that works, and half the time he looked like he could barely talk, and it was all really hardcore ADR, and it really bothered me. But rewatching a couple scenes recently, like you can kind of see David Harbour's face coming through, and I think the overall look of him is I'm so conflicted. Overall,
I
think
got more used to it as the movie went on. I will
absolutely during watching the whole film, yes. I think he overall maybe looks better than the original in like overall design.
Okay.
That's
I thought
interesting.
he had a really great presence. He was a bit sort of bulkier and taller than the Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
I liked his characterization as well, and I liked how he was a different Hellboy to the Ron Perlman Hellboy.
Yeah.
Sort of.
He had he was like, it's hard to even put your finger on it because I've got to watch it again. We saw this a few days ago, but there was something like a little more distinct. He wasn't maybe as
I hate to say
tragic
it. Yeah, I was
as
gonna
the Ron Perlman scene had the sorrow in him. More so than this one. This one seemed to be a little bit more get up and go.
Can I quickly just jump in and say that I'm going to be reviewing this from two different places, and it kills me, but I'm reviewing this from a place of watching this film on its own, and also a place of watching this film as
context.
as someone who has been a fan of the comics.
Yep. Okay.
And I would say that this Hellboy is not the Hellboy from the comics.
This definitely isn't.
It's definitely not the Hellboy from the last couple of movies, exactly. But he's kind of riffing on that. And yeah, I'm just going to keep going back to that place.
Yes. And that, I think that's where we're all going to have to come for it, because there's going to be the inevitable comparison to the Perlman Hellboy, in terms of the character, and then the overall movie is going to be a comparison from Marshall to Del Toro. But yeah, him as a character, I thought was probably one of the higher moments of this film.
Yes.
Given my reservations about some of the makeup and
yes.
Can I again stress the horns? Because there is a specific scene towards the beginning where there is a character that is filing the horns.
Yeah.
That is some of the dodgiest fucking CGI. That was
Oh no, the dust.
the
Yeah.
dust.
Ooh.
That
The
was
dust looked
fucking
terrible.
horrific. It was them clearly like an inch away from the actual horns, just like filing in the air on these plastic horns with this.
And the horns are
CGI dust.
off outer screen.
Hey.
Stop it. It
You know
was
what? But
so
you know what?
bad.
I kind of love these kind of like, it almost has that Doctor Who, like you can see the masking tape on it.
Plastic
You know?
Doctor Who before bad CGI is not a good enough
I can't,
excuse.
Hang
I can't not
hang on.
love it for some reason though, and that's just me and my sensibilities.
Can I jump in and say we're just calling no more saying bad CGI, because this movie is
Riddled.
full of so much bad CGI.
Well, let's just kind of jump into that a little bit, because it is so full of bad
it's
CGI.
riddled. Like it most of the CGI is fucking horrendous.
I mean,
so,
I don't think that they should have added more budget to this, because then they'd have just lost more money.
No,
but,
absolutely,
like,
yeah.
they should have had more budget. Like it's so bad.
The giant scene. The giant scene with that 3D when it's wrapping around and it's all on green screen. But I kind of love it.
No,
I kind of- I start
stop
laughing.
Excusing bad
No,
execution.
but I'm when I say I love it, I'm kind of like I'm not laughing with the film. I'm laughing at the film, and I'm entertained.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, it becomes so bad that you're just like, this is a joke.
This film is epitomized for me. It's so bad. It's good-ish.
Yeah, it like
get
someone,
that.
I think it was Connor, mentioned Underworld earlier, and this feels like in that vein very much of that. Just
Yes.
like kind of laughable B-movie shit that we don't
Yes.
see too much of anymore.
No, we
that really
don't.
like
Mid-2000s direct to DVD.
lower budget, just
Yeah.
like hardcore fantasy sci-fi bullshit that just gets thrown at you, and you just have to sit there and fucking take it. And it's
I'll take it, man. Like, bring it the fuck on. This actually, to me, if you told me, if like I had no context, and you said to somebody, hey, the Neil Marshall Hellboy was from 2002, and the Del Toro one's from 2010, 2014, I wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
I would believe you 100% because this looks like
that is a fucking awesome fucking
it's
way to contextualize
like
this.
it's like 3 steps backwards.
Yeah.
But like I those kind of movies, like The Last Witch Hunter and all that, I can get behind them, man.
Look, I mean, so can I to a certain point, and obviously I do. But I just there is a level of quality. Like, you can tell that the people that made the Last Witch Hunter, at least there's a certain level of quality that they were looking for, and it looks like that. Like, at the very least, the CGI is decent. Whereas in this one, it just seems like it's such a haphazardly put together film.
I think we have to reference now the fact that this was a very troubled set. From what I've read, David Harbour didn't have a good time with Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall didn't have a good time with the 16 producers that were breathing down his neck. I feel like knowing that, you can see it in the end product. This is a
Absolutely
hodgepodge mess. And the way actually I would describe Hellboy, 2019, I would call it like, imagine if you made a Netflix Hellboy series, 6 episodes long, and you took those episodes, you chopped them up, and you put it into one movie. He goes here, he goes there, he meets this guy gives exposition, we've got this monster, and at the end, I'm kind of in the last scene like, what the fuck has happened? I actually have no idea what the main thrust of this arc is.
That's a really good comparison, because it really is this film. It's just like
Find the thing, do the thing.
they
Finish the mission.
tried to kind of create this character, and then it's just like back and forth.
Yeah.
This and that happens, and there's these characters coming in and out of it, and it's just
He's off to here, he's in this
non-stop.
cave. And
Having said this, the bad CGI, there is some positives in terms of like the execution of the film, which is a lot of the design. I thought was really cool, particularly with the Baba Yaga.
Okay,
and
so
that entire
yes,
sign.
just to jump right on that before you say it, there is a lot
You
of
keep interrupting me
Yeah.
so you can finish what I'm already saying.
you know,
I love
but no, seriously, just to let you take the ball and run with it.
he's doing a through ball for you.
The practical design in this film, there is a lot of work that they do that is just like practical stuff, practical effects, practical creatures, like animatronics and stuff.
When it's there,
Practically
it's awesome.
practical.
It's practically
Yeah, when it's there, it's awesome. And like you said, like that entire Baba Yaga scene is really well crafted because there's
So good.
so little CGI in that. A lot of it is quite clearly done with
In
animatronics
camera, yeah.
and
Or even
and-
contortion artists or something.
artists
Yeah.
and physical makeup and she looks fucking terrifying. Like, it's really cool, and I love that entire scene.
But the problem with that scene, and I love that scene, it's my favorite scene from this movie.
it comes
the
out of
problem with
fucking
it,
nowhere.
exactly. And the thing is why why I feel like Mike Mignola, the creative Hellboy, loves this, is because Hellboy kind of goes here, he goes to Eastern Europe, then he's in the Antarctic, like he goes on all these adventures. And they try to kind of do that in this, but it doesn't work in the movie format. If this was a Netflix TV series, that's a way better format for this.
Yeah.
Way better format.
Well, because then you're also willing to excuse more low budget production. Like there's so much more that you are willing to kind of give.
Yes.
Like for me, like
you give it a bit
you're
of a
going to go
rope.
to a theater, pay money to see a film. You kind of want there to be the person that's making the film to take their craft seriously. And I'm not saying that Neil Marshall didn't take his craft seriously, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
There are so many moments in this film where there are like practical elements happening, and there's just CGI painted
Attached to it.
completely over it. Yeah, like there's a kind of man boar character who is clearly like a physical element who's just been like slathered with CGI, and none of that bothered me too much. it was just the actual storytelling that really killed it for me. Like it was just all exposition and one
Weird
thing after
exposition at
another.
that.
Like
Also, while we're at it, the dialogue.
Terrible.
Some of the worst dialogue, especially for the main antagonist. I don't think there was a single line that she put out there that was actually like well crafted. It was sketchy as fuck.
I thought Hellboy had some good one-liners. I think I was the only person in the cinema laughing. But this is...
But some of those one-liners did feel very forced.
Yeah, 100%. I still kind of went on the ride, though. I can't blame Andrew Cosby. He's the only screenwriter on this.
Mike Mignola.
I think this has been hacked up in the edit bay.
Mike Mignola was an uncredited writer on this film.
It is the like Hellboy is not about dialogue. Hellboy in the comics is about cool visuals and great mythos and ideas. It's not about compelling characters or anything. And this is like, whether or not that's the final screenplay, whatever it is, it's fucking horrendous. Like the exposition done in this, I was bored out of my fucking mind.
Yeah, and they try to turn it into like a quippy action film.
Yeah.
Which is not what Hellboy is in the comics.
No.
And for the record, like I'm not judging this against the Mignola original two films, because I know, George, you had a problem with the reviews initially, thinking that they were comparing them to those, this to those.
It was like, I'd rather have seen Hellboy 3 rather than taking this on its own merits and critiquing this.
Yeah. And taking this on its own merits, like I don't think this is capturing anything that was strong in the comics. Or anything that was strong in the original films.
But that was kind of the thing. Like, I really loved the mythos that was brought up around by the Del Toro visions. This one felt a little bit rushed or kind of obvious. And I mean, I'll give you an example of how kind of bland it is. Witch Queen has an ancient oak that she then releases the plague from and is killed by the main character. Does that seem to, kind of give you the overall beginning of this movie? Incorrect. That's the Witch Hunter.
Oh, no.
Point for point,
real.
the exact same stakes, the exact same plot lines. I suppose that might be even a spoiler, but that it is so point for point another movie.
I would like to talk about that opening sequence in spoilers because I've got a lot to say about that.
Look,
I think that if they had put this direct on a streaming platform, I would have been cool, because when I was in the cinema, I was like, this does not feel like a movie. This feels like a Netflix movie. Did you guys get that feeling?
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, yeah, it just...
You said, Georgie, what you said is about it being a series cut into a film.
Yeah.
That is the most appropriate thing I've ever heard said about this film, and I've read a lot of reviews.
Ever. Period.
Ever.
Easily,
That's the most thing ever I've heard for the rest of my life.
Yeah, look, it just... Like, yeah, I agree. If this had been a direct to streaming thing that, you weren't expected to pay an entire, however much you would have paid for this film, then yeah, I could let that go. But it's just, as a standalone film, as a kind of an expression of the mythos that had come before for the comics or the previous two films. I mean, it doesn't make the cut.
Let's talk about a few other actors in here. Mila Jovovich.
Bad.
Better than anyone else.
Solid. I would call her solid.
Yeah,
in this.
I love Mila Jovovich. I thought she did the best she possibly could with what was happening in this film.
Like but she didn't have anything to do. The scripting was horrific. What little scenes she was in was just very kind of like, ugh.
It could have been so much more.
I was happy to hear her name pronounced as Nimue, because I just seeing the synopses, I just thought it was Nimu. I was scared and confused.
I've got to say, bitterly disappointed by Ian McShane.
Really?
I thought he did. I don't know what happened there. But
again,
if you compare that...
I bring that down to scripting, like, he just wasn't much to work with. I always find Ian McShane enjoyable to watch. He did feel like he was maybe phoning in a little bit, though.
He just seemed to be a lot more aggressive than that character is in my mind. Like, he was quite...
I liked it.
front-footed.
He was definitely different than the equivalent character played by
John Hurt. Yeah.
John Hurt, in the
We had a more
version.
gentle, fatherly.
Yeah. I kind of liked what he was doing with it. I liked the departure from the Hurt version, just like the kind of no nonsense fucking buck up kiddo type thing, and I really liked the kind of thorough line for that character arc. That was, but I mean, I'm biased because I really like Ian McShane.
You know, he's fast approaching 80 years old.
He must be
kidding me?
He is old as
He's
fuck.
76.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He was
Yeah.
old in the original Deadwood.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, he must be getting up there.
Yeah. I don't think I liked him as much as the original Professor Broom portrayal.
No
But
way.
that's
Probably
a bias on my part. With that original film. I did kind of like the really standoffish relationship that Hellboy and him had. Like they were both just kind of like, fuck you. Like we're both monsters in our own way. That was one of the few takeaways I took from this film.
We've also got Saoirse Lane and Daniel Day Kim as sort of the.
Okay, hated Alice.
Oh, she was god awful.
Hated Alice.
That
Probably
character was terrible.
the thing I most hated in the film. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. I that
agree.
entire thing just didn't make sense to me. Sorry, is it Daniel Day Kim?
Yeah.
Mm.
I usually really like him. This one just felt a bit off. Like,
Hang on.
I mean,
Sorry. Can I jump in and please ask you where you usually like him?
I've seen him in a couple of films, and for the life of me, I can't think.
So
about what,
I am absolutely in love with him with Lost. I think his biggest role is
that's not what I know him from.
totally. I think his biggest role is Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah, Hawaii Five-0, Good Doctor.
I have seen him in that. I swear I've seen him-
Divergent, fuck yeah. Spider-Man 2.
I love him as well. I cannot for the fucking life of me work out why they made him do a British accent for this film.
Yeah,
a bad British
bizarre.
accent.
No, it was
Because
so bad.
He's an American character.
Yeah.
Ben Damio from the comics is an American Japanese military guy.
They fucked it.
It was ridiculous because I'm sure you guys
And his
remember.
accent shat me.
We covered this in the pod many times. He was originally cast with the guy from Game of Thrones, Ed Skrein,
Yes.
from Deadpool.
Oh, that's right.
And they justified that by they justified it. Oh my god! Please look up the comment from the producers saying why they cast a white guy as a Japanese character. They were like, "Oh, we were trying to trace his British origins for the film, which just for the film, he was an American character in the comics, and we lost track of his actual identity." It's amazing.
Wait,
it's so fucked up.
who's the white character?
Ben Damio?
Yeah,
Yeah, Daniel Day Kim. He's
in the comics, he's
Japanese American.
yeah, and in
The movie, he's what?
British, isn't he?
He's British.
Okay, yeah.
Korean, I guess. If you're taking Daniel Day Kim, it's no good. But yeah, he should have done his American accent because I actually
He was
liked him.
terrible.
I liked him in the film except for his accent.
I didn't think, I was just like, why are these guys in this? Get them the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I guess I only liked him because of Lost, really.
Yeah,
because
for
if
sure.
you look at his spoiler, his character in a greater context in the comics, it's so much more striking than what happens in this movie.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And the final shout out is Thomas Hayden Church as Lobster Johnson. So good to get Lobster Johnson in this. That is a highlight for me. No fucking doubt, fam.
The fuck was that?
Are you done with that one? Because I hated it.
Really?
I
didn't like
I've
it
never
at
been
all.
a fan of Lobster Johnson.
Are you serious?
As a fan of the comics, I'd like.
Are we jumping into spoilers?
No, he's right from the beginning. I love the occult stuff in
Yes.
Hellboy. Lobster Johnson's such kind of a pulpy
Yes.
action hero thing. Even in the comics, I never really liked Lobster
Okay.
Johnson. I even have the Lobster Johnson comics, and I'm like,
I love those, man.
yeah.
It's so out there and weird. It's like, what the fuck is Lobster Johnson? But
Yeah,
it's
I
just
liked it a
cool.
lot less in the film, even.
So should we just move on into spoilers?
Yeah, I
guess
think
so.
we've covered a lot there.
And I can't imagine that there's going to be a lot of spoilers.
Final
but
recommendation.
I
Recommendation.
don't.
Yeah. This
I
movie.
toned. Done.
This movie has been so lambasted by the critics that there is no possible way you can go into it and be disappointed, I feel.
Yeah.
All you can do is like watch it and be like, oh, I like this and that, maybe.
Look, honestly, wait until this comes out on Netflix or something.
100%.
And give it a check
Yes.
on that.
100%.
Perfect. I don't give a fuck. I'm hungover style movie to watch.
100%.
There's no other reason to watch this film. It's don't watch it with people that you actually want to enjoy a good film with. It'd be so disappointing.
Yeah, I
That's why
completely
I
agree
watched
with
it
that
with you
sentiment.
folks, 'cause
Honestly, and this could be one step closer to getting Hellboy 3. I honestly think like they need to, they've got this, the Lionsgate have got this
This
franchise.
was that rough that,
Yeah. I think it's like Hellboy
Honestly,
3 could
yeah.
still fucking happen, man.
This might be the best thing that's ever happened to the franchise.
Yeah.
Mignola was like, oh, I'm going to fucking do this. And you're like, all right, you give that a shot.
And everyone else was like, Mignola, you step the fuck away.
Yeah.
Del Toro,
Yeah,
please
Del
come
Toro.
back.
Yeah. Fuck
Seriously.
you. And they had beef. Mignola didn't like Del Toro and what he did.
Totally.
Sit your ass
that's why
down,
it
Mike.
never happened. Yeah.
Sit your ass down.
Yeah.
My wrap up here is like I recommend this if you're into Underworld, The Last Witch Hunter, all that kind of naughty crap,
Yep.
like I am, you will get a kick out of this. It is also like the problem, the caveat here compared to those is that it feels like a missed opportunity. There's so much good shit in Hellboy, and to kind of fuck it up this bad is I don't know, it's disappointing in a way because that dark, gritty version would have been really cool. Nonetheless, I enjoyed this. There's some good stuff in here. There's some bad stuff in here. It overstays its welcome. It could lose 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. If you don't care about all that shit, like filmmaking quality, then this is a fun time, probably.